Good day everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope everyone is doing fine and well, staying healthy. Now, today I will be talking about this case. This case is coming from Cryorig, known as Taku. I always wanted to purchase this case, but it was way too expensive back then. By the way, for your information, this is discontinued. Back then the price was like 299 USD and I saw it in Carousel and I bought it almost less than half of what I supposed to purchase. Besides this, right, this is going to be for my sister. To me, it's actually a collector's item. I know that this case here will fit an ITX board, but I'm going to take up the challenge to put a M-ATX motherboard. Without a discrete graphic card, I'll be using the AMD 5600G. In the meantime, right, while fitting all this, right, some have actually asked me this question. Hey Cleo, you've been using this manual screwdriver. Ain't you get sick of it? The answer is no, I have better control. But being said, right, I got this gift from someone, so thank you very much, and I will be testing this electronic screwdriver. Let's get into it. Before I start to build, let me just give you a tour around this case itself. Now, it's very sturdy. The full case is aluminium except for the feet. These are wood finish, so it acts like a furniture more than a PC case. And a neat feature is that, as you know, I've actually built most of my builds on a tower or a mid-tower or a standing upright case. This is something which is very unique, which is flat. You can store all the components, as you can see here, right inside here. You can just put it back in place. So this will save a lot of space. With this said, right, people be wondering, this is going to be weak if you place a monitor. No, the reason is, right, there are metal strips across the top to hold the structure. So whatever you place on it, right, it will work. I'll show you later. Now, at the sides, there are vents holes at both areas. See? Then at the rear, these are all the PSU slots, the PCI bracket where you can slot graphic card, but I'm not going to do that, and the IO cutout for your motherboard. To go into the interior itself, all you need to do is just to press and you will just come out, and beside there are tabs over here where you push it and you can remove the whole interior. This is how it looks like. This is the interior of the case itself. Before I go into details, right, I forgot to mention that there is a big power button over here, and at the side, these are the IOs, which consists of two USB 2 port, a headphone jack, and a microphone jack. Now on the interior itself, right, there are different sections here. This is whereby all the cables for your front IO, for your power switch, and for your USB. This is actually a 2.5 HD caddy, or you can place SSD hard disk, and it's hold on with a thumb screw. See, you can remove it, so you can slot your SSD hard drive or a normal hard disk, which is 2.5 inch. This section here, right, this piece here, in fact I've taken out one screw. In fact, it's held by two screws, which I'm going to unscrew it over here. This is supposed to do cable management, where you place your power supply over here and all the cables routing to your motherboard or to your hard disk over here and over here. I'll talk about this later. So this piece here, right, is just to hold the cables, and it's fastened by two screws. And to the extreme left, this is a 3.5 HHD caddy. Again, it's fastened by thumb screw. I forgot to mention that the interior is also made of aluminium, so you will not rust. So it's easily removed. So you can slot in your 3.5 HD or hard disk. Then these are the routing holes for your cables, or maybe in the front. Now at the top section over here, right, this is actually for your PSU. you will only be able to fit in a SFX or SFXL power supply or PSU. Now, this section here where you see these two cuts out, these are meant for your graphic card. And over on the extreme right, this is for your ITX motherboard. Now, how do you actually mount the graphic card this way? In this case itself, it does provide this riser cable whereby you fit, let's say, to your motherboard PCIe slot. Then you can extend it with this, followed by a graphic card, which is slot this way, so that this slot here, right, you can catch the back I/O of your GPU. I've decided on the components that I'm going to use. First off, this case does not have a discrete graphic card, so I will be using the Ryzen 5 5600G coming from AMD. Now, this is another processor where I got it from my favorite shop at Peach Tradings. So they will pack nicely, the thing is, and you won't get dense. See? Next off is the RAMs itself. This is coming from Crucial Ballistic. This is a 32 gig kit with clock speed of 3200 and it's non-ARGB. I got this from Crucial shop itself, from Shopee. Now, for storage wise, I will be using this. This is actually my spare M.2, which contains 500 gig of space, coming from Crosshair MP510. This is additional storage coming from Crucial again, and it's BX500 1TB. I got this off from Shopee too, but sad to say that directly from Crucial, right, the packing was not really that great. See, there are dents over here. For this, now this is actually a low profile cooler that is meant for ITX build, and this case itself, right, the height of the clearance is at the clearance is at 49mm thick, and I can't house anything above it. So with this said, right, I purchased this from Amazon, and the height I believe is 37mm tall. That's right. So when you place this onto the motherboard itself, right, you should go around 40 to 42, which is okay for the height. And there are some additional clearance from the case itself, so that you can actually draw air in. Next will be this. This is actually the SFX power supply, V850 from Cooler Master. Now, this I got it directly from Cooler Master from Shopee again. Now, all this that I've mentioned, I will leave the link below so you can check it out of where I purchased them. And finally, the motherboard itself. I've chosen the M-ATX instead of the ATX, and this is gotten from my favorite shop again, Peach Tradings, whereby they pack things nicely and you don't get dents. I'll leave the description below, and if they do not highlight all these parts at their shop, you can ask the owner if they are able to obtain the item for you. Now, it will be a time lapse on how I configure all these parts together, so let's get into it. As you can see here, just an illustration of the interior itself. It's supposed to mount a ITX motherboard itself. So if you were to put a M-ATX, right, it will not fit in due to the fact of the obstruction of the SSD and this cover over here. So let me just switch to this side. Now, in order for me to place the M-ATX itself, let me just clear this off. Remove this SSD cage and this bracket over here. Then you should be able to mount straight. See, there are enough clearance. And based on the fact that motherboard builds, right, these 4 threads over here, or should I say the screw holes, they are of the exact same position as the M-ATX. M-ATX and the M-ATX, the mounting holes, are of the same with the ATX, sorry, the ITX. But something to take note, which is this, I will have to insulate this before I can feed the M-ATX board itself. If not, this will short beneath the M-ATX pinouts, which is here, quite near to the RAMs. Now, as you can see here, right, I'm going to prepare to mount the M-ATX motherboard onto this case itself. But before I do so, right, it's always a practice that I will clean up using some alcohol at where you're going to mount, because you wouldn't know that there might be, the previous owner who actually unscrewed this motherboard off from the case itself, right, there might be some metal chips, or should I say residue, reside. So make sure you clean it properly. In fact, I always do this, be it whether new or old case, so just to prevent from shorting the motherboard, especially at the back, or these pinouts, just in case. Now, besides this, right, as I mentioned, I need to isolate this, so I prepare a tape over here, which I'm going to paste it in. An additional precaution, there's this plastic cover. This is actually the cover to cover when you bought the HDMI cables, right, or USB cables. You have this kind of protective kind of plastic. You can just cut it and to fit it. So this acts as an insulation between the motherboard and to this standoff. So right now I'm going to mount the board. Now, having to say so, right, I've seen a lot of reviewers holding the heatsink itself with the motherboard and swinging around. It might look very stylish, but in the event if you were to hit any side of the motherboard, right, you might just break the center part. So never hold the motherboard just on the heatsink itself. Make sure you hold it with both hands so that it's sturdy, it's firm. If you hold this and to swing, right, yeah, it look very stylish. Okay, I'm actually supporting it. It might look very stylish, but this is not the way to do it. So please do not follow that. Okay, right now I'm just going to slot in. And I'm going to screw in. Make sure I align it. Now, reason I'm still using this screwdriver because I don't really get used to this screwdriver, as in like, kind of clumsy with it. But this is definitely a good screwdriver. I mean, electronic, it saves all the energy, but somehow I want more control, I'll use this. I have to apologize that I break before I go back to the case, and I just want to talk about this electronic screwdriver kit, whereby my client, the company that I work with, right, they have sent me this kit to use, and I just feel bad that I don't know how to use it. But just to show you the function of this screwdriver kit itself, in fact, the company is known as Auria, and I've checked on the internet itself. You can purchase this here locally here in Singapore. So I'll just leave the link in my URL if you're interested. Now, on with the introduction of this 28-in-1 electronic, or should I say electric screwdriver. In this box, right, it contains a simple menu, all the instructions on how to use the screwdriver and such, and all the bits, like all these bits over here. You have Phillips, you have flathead, you have Torx screws, and etc. Now, this is pretty unique, whereby if you are working in the dark, there is this light over here when you turn it on, so that when you do all your fixing in the dark or in tight corners of your PC, right, you can just turn on this light and do the screwing. This is to tighten, this is to loosen. So top and bottom, or should I say top and bottom. Besides this, right, there's also one unique features whereby I will talk about it. Now, take example of all these screws, right? See, right now it's demagnetized. It's like there's no magnet to the screwdriver to pick up your screws. It comes with this. So the top section here is demagnetized. The bottom section here is magnetized. So if I were to put at the bottom and just do a few turns, see, your screw will come up. Then if I were to demagnetize, right, see, no matter how you place on your screws, right, it will not come out, not at all. And of course, this is rechargeable. It's a USB Type-C, and this is the charging unit. And I noticed that in the charging unit itself, right, they give you this pry tool, so it's pretty handy. All right, now back to the case. As you can see over here, I've actually mounted the motherboard itself. It's sturdy, it's in place. Then I have mounted the PSU. And why is it mounted this way, whereby this inlet, right, supposed to be bottom, but this case itself, right, there are no ventilation hole below, so you have to mount it above, whereby it sucks the air from the top. There are ventilator holes on the casing itself, I mean on the cover itself. Then next will be the SSD itself. Now, this was the original position for the 3.5-inch hard disk. However, I took this out. So I'm intending to use this. This was supposedly to be in front over here, but I removed that in order for me to fit the M-ATX case, I mean motherboard. Then I'll make use of this to slot it over here. And of course, when I slot it over here, right, I will not be able to screw this cage on the casing itself. So what I've done is I placed some tape. These are insulation tapes, so that it will not move. Then once I've actually done that, right, I'll do all the cable management itself. Now, earlier on I did mention that there is this thing for cable management. Now I'm not able to place it. Not to worry, I can just live without it. So all the cable management, right, will strongly go by cable ties. Great, everything is completed. I've fitted all the parts and I've done all the cable management using zip ties and such, and to tuck them nicely. Now, when building a ITX case itself, I would say that you have to take note about certain things like the VRM heatsink, the processor, and the cables. Are they blocking the airflow and such? Now, first off with the VRM, as you can see over here, right, this is my EPS cable, the extension cable. I've deliberately tied it to the case itself so that this cable will not touch the VRM heatsink. Because when this go hot, right, it might melt the cables, especially for PET sleeves cables. Same goes to the processor itself. The heatsink will run very hot. And on the fan itself, right, this cable here, make sure that it does not touch the heatsink, so that the chances of melting this cable is less. See? So I tuck them nicely, make sure that it's not touching the heatsink itself. Next will be this strip of fans, which I've shown you earlier, picture by picture. I'm using zip tie to zip them up as a strip, as a whole strip, and again using zip tie to tie it, because there are no mounting screws and such. And why I've actually designed it this way is because I'm making use of the hose from the bottom for these fans to pull all the cool air and angle it at a 30-degree angle to push all the cool air to the motherboard itself, to the M.2 area, to the RAMs, to the processor, and to the VRMs. Slide 8, not really full. As you know that when I plug, or should I say when I measure that when this is plugged back into the case itself, right, the ventilator hose is over here, but not at the center. So making use of the full plank, or should I say the full stem over here, right, once you plug this in, the fan will channel as a night. Making use of the bottom part here is flat, so it will channel all the air directly to here, and you dissipate to the top. So same goes to the cooler itself. I might be changing the cooler itself as I don't think this will work. Temperature might be okay. I would say around 86, 85 or so, but I would like to have it better. So I might be changing this cooler itself. Now, besides this, right, when doing your cable management itself, please take note that not to force any cables. Do it slowly, one by one, and not everything in and you start to tuck in and shove in, things like that, because things can get very messy if you do that. Alright, let's fire it up and see if this will work, and I will place this into the case. A piece of art, I should say. Now, I've been running this PC with Cinebench R23. This is my 6th time running it, and when I look at the temperature, right, it does hover from 85 to 86 degrees as I've predicted. Now, there is something which I've actually missed out, which is the cable management itself. Now, reason being, right, I just want to cut down the time. Besides this, right, if you want to know how I do cable management and how I plan my stuff when doing a PC build, on my website itself, or should I say my YouTube channel, there is this section known as PC Build Part 3. Now, this is to show you how to build up a PC from scratch, from top to bottom, or should I say from the start to the end. And it does cover on the cable management itself. So if you guys are new to PC building, right, you can actually have a look. I will just leave this URL at my top right hand corner. Now, besides this, on my YouTube channel itself, right, if you were to go to this page itself, I will leave this in my description again and the top right hand corner again. If you guys were to come to this main page itself, right, you will see that there is this section known as PC mode tips and tricks. Now, this covers a lot of stuff, whereby how you do manual DIY on ARGB stuff, and to understand how to use the multimeter and such, and many more things like doing flashback on your motherboard and such. And I've did some modes to graphic cards and how to do proper cleaning up, so you can actually have a look. And for those of you who are actually new, right, welcome to the channel. Do remember to subscribe if you like my content and to click on the notification bell button. Till then, take care, goodbye, see ya.